Welcome back. So today we're in my backyard here in Calgary. I wanted to do a review for you over the weekend out at Pine Lake, but as much as we tried, the wind was too much. There was motorboats everywhere. It was kind of insane. Not really a good place for canoeing because of the motorboats. But anyways, one of the books that I wanted to review for you is one of my favorites from my collection, and I'll be reviewing a few of those throughout this series. So, Parting Ways is the name of the book that I'm reviewing today. Parting Ways was released in 2005 from Speakeasy Comics. We've got a few people on the creative team. We've got Andrew Foley, who's an Edmontonian gentleman. You might know Andrew Foley from his work on Cowboys and Aliens. He's done some work in cinema. He's done a lot of work in comics. And I think Andrew's a particularly good writer. He's quite a good writer. Scott Mooney's doing the major art chores on this book. I don't know a whole lot about Scott Mooney. His work is definitely reminiscent of a few other artists that I like. And then Nick Crane, who I think is a very important face in Canadian graphic novel lit, doing books like Portrait of a Thousand Punks, the hardcore logo story, which I'll definitely be reviewing down the road. So Parting Ways, yeah, like I said, one of my favorite books in my collection. What we have here is basically just a story about this gentleman who commits suicide. We're following this gentleman in his experience in his afterlife, discovering that the afterlife is this huge bureaucratic nightmare, but still with some humanity in it. Meanwhile, back on the mortal plane, his body is wandering around soulless because his soul is in the afterlife. That piece in particular is really interesting in this book. And I wonder if Foley is making an allegory for depression or some kind of mental health issue that's going on. Being this soulless character wandering around the mortal plane. The way the other characters relate to this soulless individual, soulless main character, really does remind me of how people relate to others with depression. And the way that the character himself talks, wanting to feel, wanting to experience emotions, but just somehow can't. Definitely reminiscent of somebody who's experiencing some mental health challenges. So I thought really, really clever. If that is indeed what Foley's doing here, maybe I'm reading too much into it and projecting. One of my favorite quotes from this book, hell's one big karma wash. So in 2005, I don't know if Andrew had this in mind, but you can definitely see similarities there to online life. On life can kind of be this hellish landscape where nothing much actually really happens except for there is this karma wash. And karma is really what's propelling a lot of people to be involved in it. Afterlife being a bureaucratic nightmare, definitely going to those places of like the Monty Python sketches, taking it deeper than that though, and far less humorous. Although I would say there's definitely those moments in this book where you're chuckling to yourself. It's not a Monty Python sketch. There's other stories that I think have come since this time, 2005. High Heaven from Ahoy Comics definitely comes to mind for me. That has the same sort of theme, which itself is also a really great book. Super humorous. It explores free will. In order for this story to work, you have to accept the concept of free will. And I think most people do. That's something that I think is an idea that I play around with a lot myself. But Foley's definitely going to those places and exploring the concept of free will and the worth of free will. It reminds me a lot, especially the bureaucratic processes that this character experiences, this kind of hopelessness that he experiences in his afterlife, is very much in line with Kafka's The Trial, which is one of my favorite pieces of work, one of my favorite pieces of literature. So yeah, how are other people impacted by you being a soulless individual? He explores this expertly in this book. Um, the art, yeah, the art's fantastic. Shout out to Scott Mooney for his art in this book. The one thing that I think he did really well is we've essentially got two versions of the same character running around in this story. And while the soul is separated from this more material individual, we see this soul living. He's kind of a portly dude. Uh, yeah, he's not the most athletic guy, uh, but he's got a soul, and he's a bit, yeah, portly, I would say. But the material world self of this same character, you can see him shed the pounds throughout the comic, and gain this more slender figure, this more cunning, slender figure. But they're definitely the same characters, and Scott Mooney kept it consistent throughout, which is just fantastic. You can see this transformation happen quite naturally in the art. Well done. Yeah, Afterlife is a bureaucratic Costco, where mass mediocrity is more immediately acceptable than greatness. And wow, what an idea there. That's a big one. But one that I think everybody can identify with, especially the artist. Going through that. Like, what is the purpose through all of this? What is it exactly that I'm trying to do in this material world? And I think Foley's pulling us to that place of saying, well, just experience relationships, which is such a beautiful message. There's this demon character who's running around, following our main character around. He's a pretty cool character too, and Foley explores a lot of the sort of challenges, I think, of work life and how mundane it is, how you can get sucked into it, and really get sucked into the company line, the company vision statement or mission statement, and how much you can identify with that, and pour your every being into that, just to discover that it's numbers that is pushing what it is that you're doing. At least for my work in social work over the years, that's often something that ideas that I'm confronted with. Yeah, just all around a really great book. Parting Ways, like I said, one of my favorites from my collection. Not a lot of color here, no color. It's black and white, but I don't mind that at all. The story takes you to great places. So that's all I've got to say today about Parting Ways. If you like this video, definitely click the like button, subscribe, and if you see fit, maybe visit my Ko-fi page, which is in the description below. So thanks a lot for stopping in.